إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور. الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في الخلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فتور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناه رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير. وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير. إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا النذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. آمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف النذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان النكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير. أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور. أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور. أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم. قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون. سبحان الله. قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين. فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون. قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم. قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين. قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Ahsan, thank you, Brother Abbas, for reciting Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا أبا عبد الله الحسين. Thank you guys for being patient with the program changes and a little bit of the delays that happened tonight. So I appreciate you all that have been here on time and been patient with the whole changes. Inshallah, just to give you a preview before we have Sayyid's speech, inshallah. So we'll have poetry recitation, followed by the finance committee and fundraising. And then inshallah, we'll have Sayyid's speech. So inshallah, first with poetry, I'll invite Brother Muhammad Jabir for recitation in Arabic. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
لتعجيل فرج صاحب العصر والزمان صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. ويا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل أحمل آهاتك. Repeat with me. يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل أحمل آهاتك، يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل أحمل آهاتك. لو ودعت الويليان تتولاني العدوان. تقول يا ليل الوداع، إش ما تطول وياك ساهر، ما أملي من البواكر، حتى لو تعمل نواذر. حسين بس هالليل يمي وما تشوف عيوني باكر، يا ليل ارحم دلالي، يا ليل ضاعت آمالي، يا ليل ارحم دلالي، يا ليل ضاعت آمالي. وآيات دهر الخوان تتولاني العدوان. يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك. لو ودعت الويليان تتولاني العدوان. أنا يا ليل العقيلة الزينة بالمعروف خدري، التولي ولا واحد الشافا، ولا ستر يوصل لستري. لكن يا ليل ايش بديا سلمت للقدر أمري، يا ليل كافي تروعني، يا ليل صبحك فجعني لو نزل الميدان وتتولاني العدوان يا ليل طول ساعاتك يا ليل أحمل آهاتك لو ودعت الوليان تتولاني العدوان. صلوات.
Ahsan. Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Inshallah, next we'll have a Farsi recitation by Brother Sayyid. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من نفسي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم و هو العلی العظیم هو الاول والآخر والظاهر والباطن و هو بكل شيء علیم. صدق الله العلی العظیم. صلوات بر بإذن الله و رسوله و بإذن مولانا امیر المؤمنین. السلام علیک یا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام علیک یا حجت ابن الحسن. صلی الله علیک یا ابا عبدالله. کربلا لبریز عطر ایاس شد، نوبت جانبازی عباس شد. بازوانش مرگ را بی تاب کرد، تیغ‌های تشنه را سیراب کرد. تا کنون عباس ها را دیده ای، بوسه از دست آنها چیده ای. گر ندیدی چشم دل را باز کن، عشق را با بوسه ای آغاز کن. شیعه یعنی هفت وادی استراب، شیعه یعنی تشنگی در شط آب. آب گفتم سینه ها بی تاب شد، آب گفتم سینه ها بی تاب شد. خیمه ها از آتش آب شد. آب گفتم تشنگی بیداد کرد، کودکم بی تاب شد فریاد کرد. آب گفتم آب چشمم شد روان، می تراود خون ز چشم آسمان. آفتاب از روی زین افتاده است، مشک آبش بر زمین افتاده است. کیست این ساقی که بی دست آمده، که سبوی تیغ سرمست آمده؟ کیست این ساقی که بر خون پا نهاد، تیرها را دید و پیشانی گشاد؟ کیست این ساقی که بر خود پا گذاشت، آب را در حسرت لبها گذاشت؟ کیست این ساقی که ساقی زاده است، همچو اشک از چشم خود افتاده است؟ کیست این ساقی که چشمش تیر خورد، آب غیرت از لب شمشیر خورد؟ او علمدار سپاه شیرهاست، یا گلویش ساقی شمشیرهاست؟ حیدر ثانی خروش آورده است، خون عالم را به جوش آورده است. مشک من لبریز آب و آبروست، چشم من با خیمه ها در گفتگوست. ای خدا این مشک را از من مگیر، گر گرفتی اشک را از من مگیر. شیعه بی اشک شمع مرده است که از غم بی آتشی افسرده است. نسبتی دارند با هم آب و گل، اشک می شوید غبار از چشم دل. بشنو از نی چون حکایت می کند، شیعه را در خون روایت می کند. شیعه یعنی با استاب آسمان، بر سر نی جلوه رنگین کمان. از لب نی بشنوم صوت تو را، صوت انی لا ارر موت تو را. پرچم زلفت رها در باد شد و از شمیمش کربلا ایجاد شد. می سزد نی نکته پردازی کند، در نیستان آتش اندازی کند. صبر کن نی از نفس افتاده است، ناله بر دوش جرس افتاده است. کاروان بی میر و بی پشت و پناه، در قل و زنجیر می افتد به راه. می رود منزل به منزل در کویر، تا بگوید سر بیعت با قدیر. خواب می دیدم که در بیداریم، در مسیر کاروانی جاریم. کاروانی بی سر و بی سرپرست، قل به گردن خشک لب تاول به دست. کاروان از بس که آتش دیده بود، اشک در چشمانشان خشکیده بود. شیعه یعنی امتزاج نار و نور، شیعه یعنی رأس خونین در تنور. شیعه یعنی سابقون از سابقون، شیعه یعنی یک تپش عصیان خون. شیعه باید آبها را گل کند، خط سوم را به خون کامل کند. خط سوم خط سرخ اولیاست، کربلا بارزترین منظور ماست. شیعیان مدیون خون کیستید، زنده از رقص جنون کیستید. کیست تا اسلام را یاری کند، حکم حق را در زمین جاری کند. کیست تا پرچم به دوش خون کشد، شیعه را از خواب خوش بیرون کشد. کربلا بر شیعه نامکشوف نیست، حکمتش جز امر بالمعروف نیست. امر بالمعروف نهی از منکر است. شیعه بی امر و نهی ابتر است. گفت مولا کل ارض کربلا، شیعه یعنی قربت و رنج و بلا. شیعه یعنی شرح منظوم طلب، از حجاز و کوفه تا شام و حلب. شیعه یعنی یک بیابان بی کسی، قربت 100 ساله بی دلواپسی. شیعه یعنی 100 بیابان جستجو، شیعه یعنی هجرت از من تا به او. شیعه یعنی تندر آتش فروز، شیعه یعنی شاه زاهد شب شیر روز. شیعه یعنی شیر، یعنی شیر مرد. شیعه یعنی تیغ عریان در نبرد. شیعه یعنی تیغ موشکاف. شیعه یعنی ذوالفقار بی غلاف. شیعه یعنی عشق بازی با خدا، یک نیستان تکنوازی با خدا. شیعه یعنی 7 خطی در جنون، شیعه طوفان می کند در کاف و نون. شیعه یعنی تشنه جام بلا، شیعگی یعنی قیام کربلا. دشت پر از ناله و فریاد شد، سلسله بر گردن سجاد بود. فصل عزا آمد و دل غم گرفت، خیمه دل بوی محرم گرفت. زهره منصوره زهرا کجا، کشته افتاده به صحرا کجاست؟ دست صبا زلف تو را شانه کرد، بر سر نی خنده مستانه کرد. چیست لب خشک و ترک خورده ات، چشمه ای از زخم نمک خورده ات. روشنی خلوت شبهای من، بوسه بزن بر تب لبهای من. تازه غم غربت تو تب کنم، یاد پریشانی زینب کنم. بی سر و سامان تو هم یا حسین، دست به دامان تو هم یا حسین. جان علی سلسله بندم مکن، گردم از خاک بلندم مکن. عاقبت این عشق هلاکم کند، در گذر کوی تو خاکم کند. السلام علیک یا اهل بیت النبوة، ذکرکم فی الذاکرین، اسماکم فی الاسماء و ارواحکم فی الارواح. اللهم صل علی فاطمة و ابیها و بعلها و بنیها و سر المستودع فیها بعدد ما احاط به علم. صلوات بر محمد.
Ahsan, thank you, Brother Sayyid. Inshallah, next we'll have Brother Asfar, Brother Abbas, and Brother Farhan for the recitation in Urdu. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
برای خوشنودی حضرت علی اصغر علیه السلام صلوات. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی. شہ کو ایک چاند چھپانے میں بہت دیر لگی. کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار مگر کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار مگر پھر بھی شہزادی کو آنے میں بہت دیر لگی. شہن ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا لیکن شہن ہر لاش کو جلدی سے उठाया लेकिन लाश अकबर की उठाने में बहुत देर लगी। टुकड़े चुनते हुए कासिम के कहा मौला ने, टुकड़े चुनते हुए कासिम के कहा मौला ने, हाय अफसोस के आने में बहुत देर लगी। हाँ इस कदर प्यास से सूखा था गुलुए सरवर, इस कदर प्यास से सूखा था गुलुए सरवर, शिमर को तेग चलाने में बहुत देर लगी। कब्र असग़र की बनाने में बहुत देर लगी। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
बराए खुशनूदी जनाब ज़हरा सलामुल्लाह अलैहा सलावत। बराए खुशनूदी हज़रत अली असग़र अलैहिस्सलातु वस्सलाम सलावत। हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ। हाय जंगल का वो सन्नाटा, वो पुरहौल फिजा, और ऐसे में किसी दुख भरे दिल की वो सदा, जैसे बिछड़ी हुई औलाद को ढूंढे कोई माँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ। तुम गए जब से अजब हाल है बेटा मेरा, कोई सूरत से नहीं कल्ब संभलता मेरा, गोद उजड़ी है नजर आता है झूला वीरा, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ। खुद ब खुद हाथ उठे जाते हैं लेने को तुम्हें, कब से बेचैन हूँ मैं लो रियां देने को तुम्हें, हो गई रात बस अब गोद में आओ मेरी जान, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ। किसकी आगोश है इस बन में बसाई बेटा, नींद किस तरह मुझे छोड़ के आई बेटा, माँ को भी पास बुला लो वहीं सोते हो जहां, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ। जख्म गर्दन का खुदा जाने धुलाया के नहीं, जिस्म से खो भरा कुर्ता वो उतारा के नहीं, क्या लहू जख्म से ना वक अभी तक है रवा, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ, हो मेरे लाल कहाँ। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु निकले खैमे से जो ले कर अली असगर को हुसैन दोनों हाथों पर धरे थे तने लागर
हुसैन उस पे डाले हुए एक उजली सी चादर को हुसैन धूप में साया किए लाते थे दिलबर को हुसैन अश्क आँखों से ना थमते थे बहे जाते थे अश्क आँखों से ना थमते थे बहे जाते थे लड़खड़ाते हुए मजबूर चले जाते थे निकले खैमे से पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम गहवार से हुसैन जो असगर को ले चले गहवार से हुसैन जो असगर को ले हाथों पे रखे फिदियाए दावर को ले बादल में शाम के मगे अनवर को ले चिल्लाई माँ कहाँ मेरे दिलबर को ले चिल्लाई माँ कहाँ मेरे दिलबर को ले फारे कभी नहीं हुई अकबर के दार कुछ रोशनी है घर में मेरे कुछ रोशनी है घर में मेरे इस तरह बानों के इस बयान से घबराए शाह आखिर करीब फौज के आए शाह बच्चे को रख के हाथों पे चिल्लाए शाह यारो समझ लो जो तुम्हें समझाए यारो समझ लो जो तुम्हें कुछ तो ख्याल चाहिए नन्ही सी जान बतलाओ क्या कसूर है इस बेज़बान बतलाओ क्या कसूर है इस बेज़बान ये सुन के गुरमला ने उठाया कमान ताका खता ने नन्ही सी मारा खुद नंग शाह के अबरो का है मिटाया बानों के नामों ने है मिटाया बानों के चिल्लाई मौत खाए ना तुझको अमान बच्चे ने सहम सहम के हाथों पे जा, बच्चे ने सहम सहम के हाथों पे जा, गहवार से हुसैन जो असगर को ले चले।
Thank you, Brother Asfar, Brother Farhan, Brother Abbas. If I can have a volunteer turn on the light in the back, please, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Inshallah, next I'll invite Brother Ashur for finance and fundraising, inshallah. Please recite aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I meant the light on, not off.
Assalamualaikum, brothers and sisters. As I've been reminding, we have to run this center, and to run this center, there's a cost associated with that. We do 2 fundraisers a year, Muharram, one in Muharram, one in Ramadan. So our target is $25,000 today. Today is the 9th of Muharram. Alhamdulillah, we have collected around $5,000. Please recite Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of the donors. So given that today is the 9th of Muharram, let's take the advantage of this night. And we'll be passing out these slips, and outside Brother Ijlal and team is passing out slips to everyone. Our goal is, yes, 25,000 is a goal, but the bigger goal is that everyone here should contribute something. So you don't need, yes, let's pass it around. And we'll just make it quick because I know we're getting late. So while Sheikh is on the member, you can fill it out and give it back to me and outside to Brother Ijlal. But make sure nobody leaves without filling it out. And this form has 2 things in it. One is the Muharram fundraiser on the top. At the bottom portion is if you want to become a sustaining member, which is if you want to contribute every month as well. So both of those things are very important to run the center. Center has a lot of obligations, and without all of us stepping up, we cannot do it, right? So let's just, on the ladies' side as well, Mohammed, is there slip on the ladies' side? Can we distribute some on this side? What's his name? So, yeah, so this year we're doing it a little bit different. Usually we put a slide here and we put a active fundraising, but right now, since we're in hybrid situation, if you're looking online, you can go pay through Zelle or Venmo or your PayPal, or you can, if you're here, you can also pay cash in the drop box in the back. It says Muharram on it, or you can just pass it on to us with a slip. Make sure to write your name legibly with your email address, so just in case if we need to contact you. But that's a commitment you have with the center. When you fill out this form, that's your responsibility to pay it. There are multiple ways to do it. If you don't want to fill out the form and pay it straight through your phone, you can do it as well. So volunteers are there. Make sure you get a slip, and then we'll just continue with our program. I don't want to take too much of your time. So my parting words are that you will realize your own responsibility and do your part. So everyone has to do their part to make this center successful. Assalamu alaikum. Box is here.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. So I remind you again, new brothers and sisters who moved in the community, welcome. Please take time to fill up the membership form, inshallah. Thank you very much. The forms are out there on the table. There's a desk, membership desk out there. Please take time to do that. Thank you.
Mohammed, should we invite? So while we're doing our fundraising, let's all invite our scholar here to give us a speech with loud salawat. La maha
صل على
Please let's all recite a Surah Fatiha for our marhumin, the marhumin of each other, and the marhumin of all mu'mineen wal mu'minat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواحنا لتراب مقدمه الفداء. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. For the hastening of the reappearance of our Imam, please recite a salawat. Ma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight is a special night. It's the night of Ashur. It's the night where the caravan has gathered. They're doing their IABA. They're all together. They're at that final stage. They're already on the cusp of victory. And so on this night, when we're reminded of a caravan with their Imam, we remind ourselves of our Imam. And so that we're not left behind from the caravan of our Imam, please recite a louder salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before I actually get to the main content of the speech that I want to talk about, I'd like to just mention a few words about this candlelight vigil that was held. There's times when we see and we have these gatherings of Majlis Aza, when we display our emotions, we display our sadness. But there's a danger that we might fall into this trap. And that trap is that we care sometimes more about the form, the outward expression, than the real stuff of what it's supposed to express in the first place. We care more sometimes about being in sync, having that really loud matam, having that really all-togetherness, external expression, more than we care about what's inside. And if that happens to us, we should see a lot of warning signs for ourselves. We should take care. I should take care. So when we see this candlelight vigil, right? When we see children, when we see youth come forward, saying things, reciting poetry, expressing their sorrow, maybe they weren't the most confident. Maybe they stammered a little. Maybe they forgot their lines once or twice. But you know what? If the Imam is paying attention to this majlis, our Imam, which for sure he is, then I guarantee you, there's no doubt in my mind that he is much, much, much more pleased with this candlelight vigil than any other form of grief that we show. Let's pay attention to what's important. I don't want to say at all, in the very least, that the matam that we do, the latmiya that we do, the noha, all these things, they're important. We should do them. Definitely. But let's pay attention to what's most important. Let's pay attention to the real grief. And as a warning for myself, first and foremost, if anything in my words or my actions was to even the slightest make one of these children or youth ashamed, embarrassed, discouraged from repeating and coming back the next year, then I've lost. No matter how much I beat my chest, I've lost. Let's really pay attention to what's important. So on to the main topic. When we talked about, in general, from the beginning of our small talks, what we've been talking about is this. When we become aware of God, we believe in Him, we know Him, we prove that He exists, we believe in Him, become aware of Him, we obey Him. That's what it boils down to. Right? Simple stuff. Nothing revolutionary in the concept itself, in its simplicity. But as we apply it, and see whether or not we have it, that's where the revolutionary stuff lies. That's where our lives change. Why is it so much different? Why does it change things? Because of the ayah that we read. God shows us His signs, will show us His signs soon, within ourselves and on the horizons. حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ, until it becomes clear for us that He is reality, He is the truth. We're not talking about a fantasy world. We're not talking about some abstract thing that doesn't really exist. We're not talking about these philosophical things that just mess around in our heads. No, we're talking about reality, what's true, what we should be going after, what everything really is. And so it matters. It changes things. The second reminder I want to give is this, from what we talked about. When we move on this path of being a mu'min, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not a solitary path. It's not just me on my path towards God and everything else as I do, as a community, as a family, as a society, that's something else. That doesn't matter to my relationship with God. No, that's not how it works. My relationship with God encompasses every single aspect and dimension of my life. And it's when this concept becomes the cornerstone of our being, that we see things that happen. Take it back to that hadith that we quoted from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He said what? He said that if you become aware of God, you worship Him. And if you worship Him, through worshiping God, you become needless of worshiping anything else. That's freedom. That's true freedom. Without worshiping God, you can delude yourself all you want. I can delude myself all I want. But at the end of the day, I'm worshiping something. Whether it be the people around me, some celebrity, parents, social pressure, even my intellect. But I'm worshiping something. So I have to choose. Am I going to worship my intellect when my intellect itself is telling me that, look, you're limited. You can't know everything. You don't know everything. But I can reach you. I can take your hand and make you reach something that does know everything and can tell you what is right and what is best for you. Obviously, the latter is better. I'll mention one story over here. There's a famous story about a person by the name of Bishr al-Hafi. This al-Hafi part, is not his name to begin with, right? That comes after. That becomes because of the story. Al-Hafi means barefoot, right? So this Bishr is his name. Al-Hafi, the barefoot one, is his title. This is in the time of Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Imam Musa al-Kadhim is walking on the street. He passes by this, really grand, big house. But from that house, there's a lot of music coming. There's a lot of sound and music, and all this is coming up. A servant comes to the front of the door to take out some trash or something like that. The Imam goes to the servant and asks, who owns this house? He responds, Bishr. This is the person, it's his house. The Imam asks him, is this a free person or a slave? The servant got really confused. He's like, what are you talking about? Don't you see this house? Right? Of course it's a free person. What does Imam say? He said, of course it is a free person. If he was a slave, none of the sound, none of this stuff would be coming out of his house. The Imam says that and he walks on his way. The servant is a bit confused. He's not really understanding. But he goes back in. Bishr comes to the servant. He's like, why did you take so long? Right? I just sent you to throw out the trash. What was taking so long? He tells him the story, right? About what happened, this conversation. He hears this. And he's like, tell me who said this. He told him what his appearance looked like, the man who said this. And he races out of the house. Doesn't even wait to put shoes on, right? Barefoot. Races out of the house, finds the Imam and says, look, who are you? Why did you say this? From that moment, he completely changed. 180 degrees. He realized all these things, this freedom, it's not really the real stuff. It's being enslaved. Want to be truly free? It's only and only through worshiping God. It's when God becomes that top priority for us and everything shifts, that's when we become freed from our internal chains. It requires work. It's not easy. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, the same concept of what we're talking about applies just as equally to when we move from an individual to a society. The same concept, this cornerstone of God being that ultimate, God being that cornerstone, my relationship with God defining every other relationship I've had. That's what we talked about yesterday, right? We mentioned that, look, when I want to choose a spouse, when I want to be married, what do I look for? What's number one on my priorities? It has to be this big picture stuff. Otherwise, we exaggerated. We talked about it, right? We said a little bit that it looks almost as if we're just, roommates living together, sharing a geographical space, maybe, putting both of our names on the insurance, right? Getting that benefit from there, having a certificate that says something's now changed. That might be a bit of an exaggeration. We're not denying that there's love and compassion between spouses, even without religion. But let's look at what happens. Let's suppose that the husband, has a career. That's what's important, right? Having a career. But a time comes when he has to choose. Do I stay with my wife and my children? Or do I go somewhere else for my career's advancement? Now, I'm not saying there's a blanket ruling. Obviously, there are situations when that becomes necessary, right? I'm not denying that. But let's think about the thought process, the perspective. If we take religion out of the perspective, that love, that compassion, it's brittle. At this point, it can turn easily into resentment. Easily. Because there's no unified purpose. There's no unified direction that this is what we're trying to accomplish. Without that, why would the sacrifices make sense? It doesn't. It doesn't. We have to see what we're going for. What's the most important thing? What's that cornerstone? And then we judge everything through that. So if we look at it from a Tawheedi perspective, how does that conversation play out? It goes like this. That I'm looking at this perspective. What is it? What next step in my life, at this stage in my life, what is the next step that will take me and my family closer to God? What is it that God wants from me? That's the number one question. That's the absolute question. And if I'm in a relationship where both parties understand that and are going together on that path, then that's something beautiful. But if we both don't have that, and we're imagining that just by calling ourselves Muslims, just by praying, coming to this Majlis A'za, and then being married, but I don't have this perspective. I don't have this idea that this is what I want to accomplish together. That relationship is not a godly relationship. Sure, two Muslims are in a relationship together, but they're not moving together. Let me give an example, a story that doesn't exactly relate to this, right? Doesn't exactly relate to the concept of marriage and things like that. But it's a beautiful story of the concept of looking at what's the priorities. And just as a small prelude to the story itself, we have a time in our contemporary time where we see the martyrs in another war. And these martyrs, a lot of them, their stories, the stories of their parents, they remind us of the Shuhada of Karbala. I'm not saying they're on the same level or anything like that, right? That's God to judge. We're not judging anything. but let's look at their character. Let's look at their stories. So I'll mention one story. The story is about a martyr by the name of Ibrahim Hadi. When he was young, he was, very, very devoted and constant in his exercising, specifically about wrestling, right? He would wrestle a lot. He would train for it a lot. One time came where he would go and he would, there was a tournament, really, really, really important tournament. That tournament, the winner of that would choose who would be on the country team, right? So it was really important. And so he enters that tournament and you see that, okay, in the preliminary rounds, he's beating everyone, right? One after another. He gets to the semifinals, right? His friends are cheering him on, saying, look, you've got this. There's no one over here that can ever beat you. Semifinals, he's facing a tough opponent. He beats him too. Gets to the finals. His friend comes up to him and says, look, I've checked out the other guy's fights. He's got nothing on you. You're going to win, no doubt. Just do what you do. You got it. Ibrahim Hadi just goes to the ring. This friend, he's relating the story. He says that I see him and I see his opponent. They shake hands. Ibrahim Hadi, smiles, greets him. His opponent says something and points out to someone in the stands. So the friend is relating. He says that I look where they're pointing and I see an old woman who has a tasbih in her hand, right? And she's praying. He's like, I have no clue what's going on. I see them, greet each other's. Opponent pointed out this, woman, and then they go to their own sort of corners. They start the fight. And the friend is like, I don't get what happened. All of a sudden, he's not even fighting properly. It's like he doesn't know anything. He's just defending, just staying back. And at first, his opponent looked like, a bit afraid to come forward, but after a while, he just started attacking him. He's just not doing anything. He gets 3 warnings, and then he loses. And the friend just flips. He's like, I don't get what's happening. I go up to Ibrahim and I'm like, if you're not serious about this, let us know at least, right? We wouldn't come here and cheer for you and do anything, right? And the friend again is really, he's like, Ibrahim just smiles. He says, just be calm down. It's okay. It's no big deal. And he leaves, gets changed and leaves. He saw in the meanwhile, before this happened, that his opponent was crying with tears and thanking Ibrahim. Afterwards, this friend is like, okay, I'm just like, he just went on a rage, just started punching the walls. He's like, I just don't get what's happening. Calm down a bit after a while. Comes out, and then he starts talking. He says, he sees that this, his opponent, Ibrahim's opponent, is like with all these people, press, people are congratulating him, his family's all around him. They're all, being happy for him. He comes to him. He says, the opponent comes to this friend. He says, are you Ibrahim's friend? He says, yes. He's like, sort of mad though. He's like, yes, what do you want? So he says that you don't know how great of a friend you have. That woman I just pointed out before we started fighting, I told him that I know that you're going to beat me. But I pointed out, I have my mother and my brother in the stands. Please beat me in a way that doesn't make me embarrassed. Don't just, wipe me out. Just do it, easily. Take it a bit easy. And, if you beat me, just beat me like that, right? Don't make me too embarrassed. I said this, and Ibrahim Hadi did that. Why? Because he realized what's most important. He realized that for this person, this was extremely important for him. This person continues, the opponent continues, says that I just now got married. I just now got married. The prize from this, that I won from this tournament, if I didn't have this money, I don't know what I would do. I needed this. The friend is saying that I saw this. I saw his mother crying tears of happiness. Then I realized There's some tournaments where we're trying to find the strongest person and we think it's all about the muscle. But there's another tournament. There's another type of strength. And in that type of strength, Ibrahim, he already won. He already got it. It's about seeing what's most important. Swallowing our ego sometimes. Checking it at the door. And going for what matters. He devoted his whole life while he was a youth. This was his passion. He wanted to win. But like that, he was able to give it up. Because he saw something more important. This is what it's about, brothers and sisters. It's about finding what's most important and going after that, regardless of what it takes, regardless of what we have to sacrifice to get there. Now, the same thing happens in our relationships, right? Maybe this was an example for an individual, but relationships work the same way. Right? There's common things that we say, right? Maybe they're heard. Well, let's not say that. But there's common things that are said in relationships, right? You have to accept me for who I am. Right? If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Right? Things like this, where the idea is this, that me as an individual is what matters. It's about me. And if you can't accept me, then this relationship won't work. It's not about us. It's about God. That shift in priorities has to happen. It's a complete shift in looking at things. If it's about God, then I'm ready to sacrifice everything. Look at the night we're in. Who we're talking about. What would our Imam say? What would the Shuhada say? How are their relationships? How did they upbring their children? How did they raise their children? How are their children like this? It doesn't make sense. It bewilders us. It's something just unimaginable. But that's because all of these people had a unified purpose. All of them were going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they had this in mind, that I'm ready to do anything, whatever it takes to reach Him. Whatever this path throws in my way, whatever obstacles come up, I'm ready to overtake them. That's who we want to be like. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I don't want to take too much time. I know that it's late. I'll just mention a few more points, and then inshallah we'll move on. There's a question that comes up that, okay, this all sounds great. You know, I should choose a spouse like this. I should live like this. Day one, it should have been like this. But what if I just realize it now? What if the time has passed? What if things are difficult now because I didn't choose rightly? I did the wrong thing. But I realize it now. But what do I do now? The important thing is realizing. And realizing more than that God is always there. We tend to think of these things in terms of material time frames. I say that, okay, all of my life, I was doing this for the past 30 years. Now what can I do? The prime of my life is gone. And sure, it might make things more difficult, but God's door is open. Don't we see Hur? Hur is there. He stops the Imam from going to Karbala. Stops the Imam from going from Kufa or going back away from Kufa. He makes him go towards Karbala. He does that. In a way, we can say that everything is linked to that point in time. If Hur hadn't done that, the Imam could have gone somewhere else. Out of the reach of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Out of the reach of the army of the Kufans. Does the Imam hesitate the slightest in accepting Hur's apology? Not at all. Things can change that quickly. We talked about the magicians, right? The magicians in the court of Hazrat Musa, Prophet Musa. They changed in an instant. Who knows how old they were? Definitely, if you compare the time of their lifespan, pre-belief and post-belief, post-belief is just a blink of an eye compared. They just lived for that small amount, maybe that half a day as a mu'min. Then they were killed. But what did they achieve? Everything. It's not about the time span. It's about the effort. It's about the sincerity. Now, that being said, there's an important thing that comes up. That if this is truly to be the cornerstone of all of our relationships, every single one, the relationships that we see, what matters most is our relationship with God. If that's what binds us together, then there will come moments when other relations become more important than our blood relations. That can come up. The best example of that is in the Quran. Please recite salawat. In Surah Hud, the 11th Surah, verse number 46, it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قال يا نوح إنه ليس من أهلك. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Prophet Nuh about his son. He says, he's not from your family. He's not from your family. إنه عمل غير صالح. He's such a bad person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say that, oh, he's someone who does bad deeds. He said he is bad deeds himself. He's not your family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling something to Prophet Nuh. The relations that matter are the ones that depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to say that he wishes ill for his son. No, of course not. No parent would ever wish ill for their children. But what matters most is a relationship based on devotion to God. Because that's what's number one in their mind. That's the priority. That's what their whole life is geared towards. If someone doesn't share that, how could that closeness exist? If my friends don't share that, how could we be close friends? If that's what's most important to me, and my friend does not have that as what's most important to them, how could closeness ever exist between us? Otherwise, if we remove that, when we talk about friends, what we're talking about is Facebook friends. It just takes a click of a button. That's what our relationship is about. It's about likes on our posts, retweets. Right? That's what our friendship is about. That stuff doesn't last. That stuff isn't real. If we truly believe and believe in God, that He's the real, and our whole relationship circles around Him. And so these things do as well. Where do we see this? As we say it in every speech, there's a reason why we're here. And it's to remember the caravan of Imam Hussein. Why do we remember them? Why do we commemorate year after year? It's because no matter how much we look at this event, no matter how much we look at these personalities, there's more and more and more lessons for us. There's nothing, no event that could ever compare to this event. لا يوم كيومك يا أبا عبد الله. This means something. It's not empty words. There really is no day like Imam Hussein's day. I'll give one example, one last example, and then we'll end, inshallah. There's a person in the caravan of Imam Hussein by the name of Zuhair ibn Qayn. Mentioned him a couple of times in passing, but let's mention his story a bit more in detail. As the Imam is leaving Mecca, Zuhair ibn Qayn is also leaving Mecca. But he knows who Imam Hussein is. He knows around about what he's doing. He's like, I don't want to be any part of this. And so he avoids the Imam as much as possible. Whenever the Imam is stopping at one place, Zuhair moves. Whenever the Imam is traveling, Zuhair stops. One time it becomes unavoidable. They stop at the same place. Imam Hussein sends a messenger, says, want to speak to Zuhair. He's doubtful, should I respond, should I not? His wife tells him, look, it's the grandson of the Prophet. Just listen to his words and come back. It's no big deal. Zuhair goes, just a small amount of time passes, right? In the narration, this is what's said, small amount of time. He comes back, his face is glowing, shining. He says, my wife, I give you talaq. I'm divorcing you. Go on your path with the rest of my family. All my brothers, family, they'll take you to safety. I'm going with this caravan to my death. Anyone else who wants to join me on this caravan to the death, they're free to join me. I'll take care of my wife. Last thing that I'll do is I'll send her safely to her home. But I'm on this mission. This is what's important. I've realized something. I'm there, 100%. That's change. That's devotion. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Dear brothers and sisters, tonight is the night of Ashura. This is a different night, brothers and sisters. Tonight Imam Hussein has asked for one day, one night to prepare to meet his Lord, to recite Quran, to worship his Lord, to prepare himself. on this night. Everybody is doing something slightly different. Perhaps Zainab is preparing Aoun and Muhammad for tomorrow. Perhaps Ali Akbar is saying farewell. Perhaps Imam Hussein is spending some time with Ruqayya. A time comes when Imam Hussein gathers all of his companions, all of his family. He tells them, this army, these people, they want nothing from you. As long as they have me, they want nothing from you. All of you go. If you're embarrassed, take one of my Ahlul Bayt, take one of my family and go. Disperse in the night. They want nothing from you. Who is the first to respond? It's reported that Abbas is the first to respond. He asks his brother, what do you mean? Why would I do that? Would I want to live when you die? May such a day never come. That's Abbas. The companions say their response as well. Zuhair says, if I were to live and die and be killed and resurrected and thus were to be repeated 1,000 times over, it would be worth it for me if it were to mean that you and your Ahlul Bayt would be safe. That's the devotion of the companions. But if we're to talk about devotion, if we're to talk about loyalty, there's only one name that we can mention, and that's Abbas. Say loyalty and I'll say Abbas. Say devotion, I'll say Abbas. Say brotherhood, I'll say Abbas. Say manliness, I'll say Abbas. Say anything you want that has virtue, that has valor, and I'll say Abbas. Abbas is Qamar Bani Hashim. On the day of Ashur, Abbas is the Alamdar. He's the flag bearer. When the army needs to go and see that someone still stands, it's because Abbas is holding up a flag. When Habib goes and passes and becomes Shaheed, the army sees that Abbas is still holding a flag. When all of the companions become martyred, Abbas is still holding up a flag. When the Bani Hashim still become Shaheed one after the other, Abbas is still holding a flag. When Abbas sends his brothers one after the other to the battlefield, he's still holding a flag. But a time comes, brothers and sisters, when it's only Abbas standing beside his brother Imam Hussein. There's no one else that remains. And so Abbas tells his brother, he tells Imam Hussein, oh my Imam, my heart becomes weary of this world. Give me permission. I want to fight as well. I want to show my devotion. The Imam doesn't let him. The Imam refuses, doesn't give him permission. In one report, it says that the Hazrat Abbas insists until the Imam gives him a mission. He says, go. But if you go, it's because you hear these cries of Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Thirsty, the children are crying out in thirst. It's for growing and getting water. Oh Abbas, if you want to go to get water for the children. And so Hazrat Abbas goes. He goes onto the battlefield, and Abbas is his father's son. He is the son of Ali. If you want to see valor on the battlefield, we look at Abbas. He scatters the enemy. He goes to the Euphrates. It's reported he goes to the Euphrates and he goes there. Now think of this. Think of this for a moment. For 3 days, it's reported there was no water. And if there was water, it's reported that at the very least, there were 3 personalities that did not drink a drop of water. Imam Hussein, Hazrat Zainab, and Abbas. And so he's at the shore of the Euphrates, under the hot sun, weary, tired. He maybe took a handful of water, but he says to himself, how could I drink while my Imam is thirsty? How could I drink while the children cry out in thirst? And so it's reported that Hazrat Abbas fills a water skin and goes back on his way. These enemy soldiers, they can't face him face on face. They can't face him from the front. And so as Abbas passes a date tree, there's a person waiting in ambush and he strikes him from the right side. What does Abbas cry out? He says, Wallah, in qata'tamu yamini, inni ahamu abadan an dini. He says, even if they cut my right side, I will always defend my religion. I will always defend my Imam. He goes on forward, but he's weakening. And the time comes when another strike comes and a cry comes out. They've cut with their hatred my left side. Abbas has weakened now. He's weakened. His right and left arm has been cut off. The water is spilling. He's knocked from his horse, but brothers and sisters, how does a person fall? How does a person fall when they have no arms to catch themselves? He cries out for his brother. Oh brother, come to me. Imam Hussein comes to him rushing, but he sees his brother with 2 arms cut. He sees an arrow strike his side. He says, Alan and kasara dhahri. Now my back is broken. Now there's no recourse for me. The Alamdar has fallen. Brothers and sisters, there's a question we ask. How did Abbas become Abbas? We know of Abbas's father, but let's mention one small line about Abbas's mother. When the caravan comes back, when they're on their way from Sham back to Medina, Imam Zain al-Abidin stops outside of Medina. He sets 2 tents there, one for the men, one for the women. He calls out to someone by the name of Bashir. He says, Bashir, your father is a poet. Can you also recite poetry? Bashir says, yes, I can. He sends Bashir into Medina. He says, announce that we've come back. Announce that the Ahlul Bayt have returned. Tell them what's happened in Karbala. Bashir goes in there. It's reported that he sees a crowd gathering. He's reciting poetry and he sees a crowd gathering. But from the middle of this crowd, he sees it separate in favor for this old woman. He asks, who is this old woman? They say it's al-Banin, the mother of Abbas. He thinks to himself, what am I supposed to say to al-Banin? al-Banin comes to him and asks, what happened in Karbala, Bashir? Tell me what happened. He says, your sons have become martyred. He sees that she becomes angry. She says, what happened in Karbala, Bashir? He says, may my children and everyone under the sky be sacrificed for Hussein. I don't want to know about my children. I want to know about Hussein. What happened to Hussein? Bashir says, Hussein also was martyred. Banin goes back and she says, now that my Hussein has become martyred and killed, now that my children have become martyred, no longer can you call me Banin. على لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Oh Allah, oh Allah, we ask you on this night, this blessed night of Ashura, if the Imam and his companions are connecting them to their Lord, oh Allah, we ask that we connect to you as well. Oh Allah, we ask you that when we see ourselves in the caravan of our Imam, we remember this night, because this night is the night when the companions, when the caravan is showing what matters most to them. They're praying, they're reciting their Quran. If we want to be companions of our Imam, this is how we show devotion to our Lord. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for not a moment, let us be separated from the caravan of our Imam. Rahimullah man qara al-Fatihata ma'a salawat.
तेरी को मासूम अदाएं तेरी याद दिलाती है तेरे प्यार की वो सब बात मुझको बहुत रुलाती है मैं तेरी जुदाई में तेरा रो के भूल नहीं सकती बात याद कोई नोट है यार जिंदा आजा के बाद इतनी है बेचैन सकीना तेरे साथ उड़ाने को चुप हो जा तरसती है तेरा दिल बहलाने को तेरा दिल बहन सकीना मेरे दिल कैसे बहला Right here. Thank you, Aya. Whatever is very
This is your next file.
Yes. यावर यावर उठा के लिया वो इधर लाना है
The small ones could go on. Well, I'm going to lift this up a little bit.
The smaller ones don't go with you actually, that's why. Just throw the small ones on the ground. We'll figure it out.
You can put them back here.
Right, throw. There you go. Yeah. This one will hold it. Yeah. Thank you. Come, step out, step out, step out. This one is you? Yeah. Oh my God, I can't recognize anybody with this. Okay, bro. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Oh, yeah, okay. You can keep them in the, you know, where the lock. Right? Thank you so much. No, I think that's how it goes.